One, we are live again, and welcome to another episode of Amplify Your Awesome. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, David Brier, who's a branding expert. And what we're calling this episode is how to finally get the attention of your target audience. And that's sort of the meta subject for today. So welcome, David. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I just want to start off actually by quoting you. And I wrote this down, so I have to put my glasses on so I can see it. I actually came across David the very first time when I was literally roaming around online, and I was searching for different images, and I came across this image that had this quote on it, and it really struck me. And just by the way, David, he's got this terrific tagline on his website where he says, "Where brands defy gravity and rise above the noise." And in fact, you can go find David over at risingabovethenoise.com. But this was the quote that really got my attention, and I really want to hear what he has to say about this. So the quote is, "One of the first impulses when people come into contact with a brand today is to press play." Brands that ignore this tendency in our culture are leaving themselves in a very vulnerable position. So, David, tell us what you see was going on there.
Well, the basic thing is I would guess, based on your age and my likely age, we grew up when there was the way that we collected information is we actually did something unusual today. We stopped and read. Right? Now, I wasn't a big book reader when I was growing up, but as I got into my later teens, and then I got into my 20s, and I started to have to learn more about more things, I read. Well, as we've seen over the last 30 plus years, people have gone from being readers to maybe occasional readers to scanners. It's actually changed the way I actually write when I write for my clients. And it's like I literally write in bite-sized chunks. Paragraphs are oftentimes one or two sentences in a paragraph. Okay, not long things. Literally like asking someone to step over the cliff and look down at that big, long, dark hole. Do you want to take one more step? It's literally almost that bad. So we've gotten into this cultural place where it's easier to just press play and consume. And it's a shift in our culture, actually. We've gone from actually creators to consumers. And there was an interesting article that I saw that kind of complements this. It actually said, stop consuming, start creating. Because we've become a culture of consumers. It's like, oh, let me sit and watch something that I can absorb. Let me listen to something I can absorb, et cetera, rather than writing something, creating something, originating something. So those are the things that are the change. And so people today are way prone. And when they go to a website, if they have a choice between reading something or looking at something, they're going to press play.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting. Between creators and consumers, now we have the opportunity, every one of us, to step out. And this is kind of actually what's cool about the medium that we're using right now in terms of live video. We all get to participate. And this kind of completely changes the game to what used to be, passive television watching and passive ad consuming, or when you go to a movie theater, just sitting there and, with a blank stare on your face, looking at the screen. Now we all get to participate. And so talk a little more about, now that we have the opportunity to be creative and creators in terms of, actually being our own media company, how do we do that in a way that's actually going to improve our brand, improve our place in the marketplace, rather than sort of deter from it?
Totally. This is a very, 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 very excellent point, and it's an excellent question. I'll tell you what I found. It's literally the difference between, are you being dictated to, meaning I'll back up even. I work with photographers and videographers and such like that. And there's an enormous divide between a photographer who takes a shot, simply recording what's there, and the other one who actually creates the shot. One is literally just sort of passively taking in, and the other is actively creating. And that's true in life, in any activity. One can literally be passively engaged in a conversation or actively engaged in a conversation. One can be passively engaged in their career or actively engaged in their career. So the key question for me is, are you creating? Are you owning what you're doing? Are you owning the magic? I think it's pretty special because, like, for example, this year, after the book came out, the brand invention book, which, by the way, there we go. This little sucker. Oh, I am so proud of this.
Nice.
Oh, I love this book. This book kicks butt. And by the way, for Shark Tank fans out there, you see that? Damon John did write the foreword. The book smokes.
Cool.
And by the way, don't think about getting it. Just get it. Get the hardcover. Just buy it. Trust me, you will not regret it. But the thing is that when I came out with the book, I didn't realize. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. It was like this blind spot. It was a stupidity. And I basically was like, people really consider a book a majorly different symbol of relevancy and credibility than, let's say, blogs and videos and other things like that. I was shocked to learn this. This was kind of like, really? And so, I mean, they could hold it, they could share it, they could pass it along, they could gift it, do all this kind of stuff. So in January, I decided, I'm going to be responsible, talking about responsibility and ownership, I'm going to be responsible for putting out routine, regular content on my YouTube channel. And so I decided to create the series 1 Minute Wednesdays. And every Wednesday morning, I come out with that. And bang. And it's been amazing to see what people are responding to. That continuity. And I realized there was a restaurant that was here in our town. And the husband and wife were good cooks. But they were randomly open. Sometimes they were open, sometimes they weren't. They kind of led a little bit of a prima donna lifestyle. They worked at the nearby university, and so occasionally when they could fit it in, so sometimes you'd go there, it would be open. Sometimes you'd go there, you wouldn't be open. After about 4 times, of which I think I got in twice. The other 2 times it was closed. I was like, you know what? To hell with these bastards. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the place next door. The food isn't as good, but it's predictable.
Right.
I knew that I could actually get something to eat when I was ready to have something to eat. So that predictability was interesting. And so that's what I incorporated into the YouTube thing. And so I started to create, and that kind of accountability of being able to provide value on a weekly basis in short snippets and having that accountability every Wednesday morning, bang, people wake up and it's there, has been amazing to see the difference that makes. People are like, I love it. I can go in there and in 1 minute, I can go in and out. It's informative. I learned something and I'm on my way. And it's kind of like the morning coffee. It's amazing, eggs Benedict, with the perfectly toasted eggs, English muffin.
Right. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So give us a perspective, like how long have you been doing these? I'm getting a really amazing echo here.
This is kind of like we're in a space movie.
Now, I don't know, maybe on your end, if you could turn your speakers down a little bit.
Yeah, I can tell you it's turned down right now.
Okay, great. Awesome. So my question is, so you've been consistent every week. How long has that been? Like, has it been a year or 2 years?
It actually, on the consistency part, that literally started in January, the first week of January of this year.
Just this year. That's
because
great.
What was happening was I was just randomly doing it. Is what was happening is, and I tend to be a perfectionist, so I would create these things, and I have one video that's 365,000 views, one that's 101,000 views, but they would be longer projects. And that lack of continuity, I was like, I'm going to try this continuity thing.
Yep, great. So do you have a workflow around doing that? Like, are you actually there on the day doing it or the day before, or do you do like a bunch at a time? How do you do that?
I do a bunch at a time. I actually took a tip. I took a tip from Damon John. I learned from Damon. But we would occasionally be talking and this and that. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to be in LA that week, and we're filming the entire season of Shark Tank."
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is I forget how many they do in a course of a day, but they do what we see. Are you a Shark Tank fan?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So the format is in an hour you get 4, and so it's 15 minutes apiece.
Right.
Well, that 15 minutes is edited down from anything that could be an hour to 3 hours.
Yep.
Okay, and so they do this whole thing, and they have to make it flow and make sense, and they have to do all that editing, which is important. But I looked like, okay, they do a whole season in a week or two.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I have to knock it out because there's no way. It would be too interruptive in my schedule. So I had to basically go, I had to knock it out. So I was going to do 6 to 8 episodes in a shoot. Great. And it's my responsibility to come up with the content. And then, and we tested out actually a couple of ways. One was like me looking right into the camera, like me talking to you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And then there was one where he says, my videographer says, I want to just try something. And he started asking me these questions, and he started looking in the camera. And he goes, I said, let me see how each one looks. I hated the one where I was looking in the camera. I felt like a freaking car salesman. I thought that I couldn't stand the way it looked. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I ended up then looking at the one conversation. I was like, oh, I'm actually talking to my videographer guy. I'm answering his questions. He's asking me, and I loved it much better.
Yeah. That's a much more sort of documentary and easygoing style. It comes across really nicely. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. So yeah, I mean, that's great. So you can do like 2 months worth of your content in probably less than a day, be my guess.
Yeah. Usually it's done in a morning, and and we'll end up with close to almost 2 months worth of stuff. The editing is where the hard work starts to get done.
Right. So you just held up your book, which has got this cool title, Brand Intervention. So what does that mean?
You mean this book?
What do you mean by brand intervention?
Well, see, here's the thing. I've been doing this for over 3 decades. Yep. Now, the thing that I found is that there were routine points that I would always have to go over with every client. And if I ever sort of supposed, they've been in business long enough, they know this, that ugly head of that particular thing that I dismissed would surface and it would come up. So what this literally says 33 steps to transform the brand you have into the brand you need. Mm-hmm. This literally is over 3 decades of the points that if you actually understand them, they will go ahead and be, they will eliminate the false ideas. They will eliminate the false notions. They will eliminate I've got a great product, therefore it must be successful. Because there are plenty of successful brands or very good products that aren't successful brands. And there are lots of inferior products that are very successful brands. Why is that? So that's where the whole brand invention was literally intervening against doing things in a compromise, doing things in an old school way where you had to sort of follow what you thought was right, but didn't really understand it. Because I am not an advocate of just blindly following anything. I have my own personal mantra, which is that rules enable one to follow, knowledge enables one to lead. And this is dedicated to giving one the knowledge, not the rules to blindly go, if I just follow what's on page 238, right? It's like it actually, when people are done, all I can tell you is the greatest reward is there's 41, as of a couple of days ago, there were 41 not interviews, but reviews on Amazon. They're 5-star, and it blows me away. It's why I wrote it. The response that I'm getting from people, entrepreneurs, branders, business owners, CEOs, people who have had a lot of experience or startups, they're just blown away. And that is what really super excites me.
That's great. I love that. Knowledge that turns you into a leader.
Yeah. Rules enable one to follow. Knowledge enables one to lead.
That's great. So I saw something on your website that was talking about basically the mistake that a lot of people are making, particularly business owners who are just trying to do their branding on their own. And you described this process where they start with their solution and you were saying, no, this is all wrong. So could you just go into that and describe that?
Completely. So we've all experienced this. We've all been pitched on a product or service, right? Oh, this is the next greatest thing. Da, 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 da. But let's look at it. Let's look at this from the reality of it. When you and I are looking for something, doesn't matter whether it is a car or it's sneakers or it's the new computer or it's, I don't know, mobile device or it's a book or it's a something. What is motivating us to look for that thing? There's some goal, objective we have, and we're not there yet. The fact that we're not there yet is a problem. Now, it could be a big problem in that we've been trying to do that for 20 years and I haven't succeeded. Or it could be like, you know what? I have a short time frame and I need to get it done faster or whatever. But there's a goal and there's a problem. So the thing is that there's a sequence. You want to start with problem, agitation, solution. And 95% of the companies out there do it backwards. They talk about the solution first. They're going to pitch. And then they're going to kind of talk about it a little bit. And then they'll eventually say, and this is why you need it, which is the problem. By the time you've gotten to that, you've lost them. They don't care. They hate you. They regret ever waking up that morning. It's terrible. So the thing is, if you flip it and you're talking about the thing that is first and foremost, most important to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I almost sometimes refer to this stuff as going on a blind date. If I went on a blind date or you went on a blind date and I said, hey, you know what? Let's talk about me. You'd be like, check. I want to get the hell out of there. But if I was like, I'm interested in you. I'm interested in you. The great brands are interested in you, the consumer. Right. And the way that that's achieved is by talking and addressing the problem that they're frustrated with. As opposed to going, hey, blah, 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 weight loss. It's like, hey, tired of being fat, tired of being concerned with what people look at you, or tired of every season going up a size in your pant size or whatever. Those would be problems. So those would be things that someone would go, whoa, that's me. So you want to connect at that point. So it's problem, agitation, solution. So it's problem. It's like, here's the problem. I don't like the fact that I'm gaining weight. Let's say that's the problem. Now, the agitation part, that's the middle part before you start talking about the solution, is you agitate. It's like, what were to happen if this continued to go on every year for the next 10 years? How much weight would you be then? What impact would this have on your kids enjoying being seen with you in public? What problem would it be if you were, if all of a sudden there was a class reunion and everyone remembered you and you were really svelte, and now it's like, I'm Joe Porky, So right. Those are agitations. So we got the problem, agitation, right? We're agitating. We're really grooving it in. So people go, oh, this is horrible.
Right. I didn't know how bad this was.
Exactly. I didn't know how bad this was. And then moving to, now what if there were actually something that could help you stably and permanently eliminate that? Would that interest you? Mm-hmm. See, at that point, they're ready to receive that communication.
Right.
Not the 180 spin.
Yep. Right. Now, it's like that really well-known Bette Midler quote, enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yeah, right. I know. Exactly.
So can you give an actual experience of working with someone and sort of what happened with them when they did this?
Oh, totally. Let's think here. Oh, I'll give you one great example. There's a chocolatier in the Midwest, and the chocolatier was an amazing chocolatier, but there was a bit of arrogance, and so what happened was that it wasn't like, how do I get other people to discover us? Okay. And so I made it, instead of it being all about the greatness of him, I made it about the passion of the chocolate lover. Okay. See, this is a big problem. The last thing you want is a rabid chocolate lover, stuck in the desert, It's like with no good chocolatiers within hundreds of miles. That'd be horrible.
Right.
But the thing is that I changed the dialogue to being about the consumer, even to the point where or on the box it said, may cause chocolate envy, share responsibly. And so it appealed to the passion. That was one example. Another example is a company that literally a startup. It went from startup, no sales. Most recently, when I talked to the CEO about 3 months ago, they were at a $250 million valuation.
Wow.
Okay? And that's in 6 years. They provide what is known in the industry, this is for businesses, as security awareness training. Because as we all know, there's a lot of hacking and people send fake emails and it gets you to click and then they get access and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a big company, all you need is you don't need more than one uninformed employee to go, oh yeah, that's true. My blah blah account they need my password and blah blah. So they click and they get into, and then all of a sudden they gain access to the back door. So the name of that ended up becoming Know Before. It was at KNO, W, B, and then for Know Before, basically a premonition. And the slogan, for example, was human error conquered. Okay. So that's an example of hitting on the problem, and one more.
Okay.
This was for a company out in California. They have a wellness practice. So instead of providing traditional medicine, they provide wellness. They provide chiropractic, physical therapy, nutritional counseling, probably stretching things, all good stuff. So they keep people off of drugs. Cool. So they call themselves Health Now. What the hell does that mean? That's what I challenge. That's what I challenge the owners. What the hell does that mean? I mean, you could be anything. And there's a Health Now medical clinic. So it's like, how do I know that you're something different or anything different? So I looked at what they provided. I looked at their audience, and what the problem was that their audience had was that they were very busy. And so, but they wanted holistic, healthy solutions. Mm-hmm. So now the new name is Root Cause Medical Clinic. Okay. And the whole positioning is that they basically regain, reclaim, and retain your life. Okay. Wow. So it's approaching on the problem that you don't have all of that package. And the whole thing is that they're there to serve the world's busiest people.
Yeah. Right.
Okay? As opposed to just anybody that maybe is just kind of whatever.
Right. Cool. So somebody who's watching this today, if they're interested in doing a brand intervention or having you do a brand intervention, how would they get in touch with you? What's the best way to sort of tune into your thing?
Well, I mean, a couple of ways. One is I honestly, I'm not pitching this because I make any money on this. I'm only telling you because this will blow you away. You'll read this in probably about 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Because, and here's one thing that's not immediately clear. I wrote this literally to be zero fluff, zero bullshit. Okay. Like none. Okay. And so this is the size of the text. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So as opposed to the usual, so the way it's designed to be really, here's an example of a chapter opener. Okay. And so it really is designed to be a fast read. And really, so you actually get the core stuff, because I was sick and tired of business books out there that were like, I don't know about you. You may have experienced this. Have you ever had like a book, you read a business book, 300 pages, and you only to discover 10 pages actually have the real stuff, and the other 290 are like fluff?
The author's backstory.
Okay. So that's what I just couldn't stand.
I started in rags, and then I made $1 million.
Exactly.
All about it in detail.
Exactly. And so that's the first thing. But also I would say subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll find 1 Minute Wednesdays. Look me up, David Brier, Brier. But you can email me at david@risingabovethenoise.com. That's RISING. Or subscribe to the blog. So those are some definite key ways to just reach out. Because I'm always providing a lot of stuff. And as you already have encountered, I don't just write. The difference between what I provide to my subscribers is I am a practitioner. I do this stuff for real. I started out as a designer. I'm still a designer. I appreciate the power of design, the power of words, the power of messaging, and how all of that needs to work together. I'm also an amazingly good cook. So I always associate stuff to like a good meal. It's not good enough to have good ingredients. The preparation has to be right. Then the cooking has to be right. The plating has to be right. So all this kind of stuff. So I make sure that all of that is working. So when you see a new article from me, you see stuff. You go, oh, that's the before, that's the after, and that's the cool thing. And so you really get to see and not just read more and more words, because I think at this point we are so all overloaded with more gurus and more specialists and more experts and more award-winning blah blahs that it's kind of like the zoo gates have been let open and all the creatures have been let out.
Yeah. Right, I hear you. All right, well, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today. And
totally, my pleasure.
We're just about to sign off. So go look for David over at risingabovethenoise.com, or just go to risingabovethenoise.com, or hang out on Amazon and find the brand intervention. And tune your brand on. Brand intervention.
Give it, you know what? If you love somebody, give them this book.
That's right.
If you hate somebody, prevent them from buying this book.
All right. Well, thanks again, David. And I'm going to...
Absolutely, Brad. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.